Namaste and welcome to Daily News Simplified, the what, why, and how of newspaper reading. Today, we would be analyzing the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper of 16th April 2018. Now, let us begin. Now, we have taken this article from page 8. Now, what this article talks about is the Aspirational Districts program and gives the various features, the core strategy, and the area of focus of the ADP program. So what we'll do with regards to this article is first understand as to what is the Aspirational Districts program and then understand as to what has been the focus of the author in this article. Now let us first understand about ADP. Now the core strategy under the Aspirational Districts program has been first of convergence of central and state schemes. The second is collaboration of central, state Prabhari officers and district collectors. The third core strategy of the ADP program is competition among districts driven by mass movement. And the fourth and the last core strategy of the Aspirational Districts program is to measure the progress done by the districts and then rank the given districts. So therefore, under this program, there would be a convergence of central and state government schemes with regards to various areas of focus within a given district. And this collaboration of central and state schemes would be driven by the central officers, state Prabhari officers, and the district collectors, and therefore there would be a convergence of central and state officers. And moreover, the assumption is that the competition among districts to improve themselves on a given set of parameters would be driven by the mass movement led by the central and state officers, the civil society, corporates, and the residents of that district. And lastly, this progress on various parameters would be measured in a given methodology, and subsequently, a ranking would be given to each district. Now, the core areas of focus would be health and nutrition, agriculture and water resources, financial inclusion, education, skill development, and basic infrastructure. Now, hopefully, up till here, you've also understood the core areas of focus of the Aspirational Districts program, wherein the first one would be health and nutrition, the second would be agriculture and water resources, the third being financial inclusion, the fourth is education, and the fifth is skill development and basic infrastructure. And it is based upon these core areas of focus that various parameters have been formed, and it is on those parameters that the progress of each district would be measured and subsequently ranked upon. And it is schemes within these core areas of focus of either the central or the state government that would be converged upon. And it is within these core areas of focus that there would be a collaboration of the central and state officers. Now, the various features of the Aspirational Districts program, wherein the first one is that it would focus on strength of each district and then identify areas of immediate improvement. The second feature is that there would be real-time ranking from May 2018 onwards. The third feature is that there would be no separate financial package or allocation of funds. The fourth feature is that the scheme would focus on spending better rather than spending more. The fifth feature is that corporate social responsibility from corporates would act as a force multiplier in the Aspirational Districts program. And the sixth and the last feature of the Aspirational Districts program is that it would focus on both cooperative and competitive federalism. Now, hopefully, up till here, you've understood the basic features of the Aspirational Districts program, wherein it would focus on strength of each district and then identify areas of immediate improvement, wherein a district which may have strong indicators in financial inclusion, then the focus within that district would shift to financial inclusion and thereby making it one of the best within its field. Moreover, there would be real-time ranking among the districts from May 2018 onwards. Apart from this, there would be no separate financial package or allocation of funds from the central government for this program, because the focus would be to spend better in the form of already available central and state government schemes rather than spending more through financial packages or allocation of funds. Additionally, the Corporate Social Responsibility Fund from corporates would act as a force multiplier in the Aspirational Districts program. And lastly, this program would focus both on cooperative and competitive federalism, wherein competitive federalism would come through the ranking framework which has been envisioned in this program. And in terms of cooperative federalism, it would come through when each district tries to find out on how the other district has improved in any of the parameters within the core areas of focus, and then try to implement or mimic with suitable changes for its own district. Now, apart from this, what else you should understand is a selection of districts, wherein 115 districts from 28 states have been chosen, wherein at least there is one district from each state. Now, within these 115 districts, 30 districts would be steered by the Niti Aayog. 50 districts would be overseen by Ministry of Home Affairs and other ministries. And apart from this, 35 districts which are affected by left-wing extremism would be overseen by Ministry of Home Affairs. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have also understood the selection of districts under the Aspirational Districts program, wherein 115 districts from 28 states have been chosen, with at least one district from each state. And moreover, 38 districts would be steered by the Niti Aayog, 50 districts would be overseen by the Ministry of Home Affairs and other ministries, and 35 districts which are affected by left wing extremism would be overseen by the Ministry of Home Affairs. So hopefully up till here you've understood the core strategy of the Aspiration Districts program, its core area of focus, its basic features, and its selection of district. And each of these sections therefore become important with regards to your prelims and mains examination on a question on the Aspiration Districts program. And now with this we move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 11. Now with regards to this article, the first thing that we'll understand as to why is it in the news, and then understand about the Financial Action Task Force. Now the reason this article is in the news, because according to FATF or the Financial Action Task Force, India needs to make money laundering a standalone offense. And this is because to comply with the recommendations by the Financial Action Task Force, for the upcoming mutual evaluation by FATF in 2020. Now hopefully up till here you have understood that India needs to make money laundering a standalone offense so as to comply with the recommendations of the Financial Action Task Force for the upcoming mutual evaluation of 2020. Now India needs to make money laundering a standalone offense because according to the FATF, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act is a predicate offense oriented law. Now, a predicated offense oriented law means that a crime that is a component of a more serious offense. Now, wherein producing unlawful funds becomes the main offense, while money laundering is the predicate offense. So, for example, a drug related offense is constituted as a primary offense, while money laundering from such drug related offenses becomes the predicate offense. Now, hopefully, you have understood that the Financial Action Task Force has considered that the Prevention of Money Laundering Act in India is a predicate offense oriented law. Now, predicate offense means a crime that is a component of a more serious offense, wherein producing the unlawful funds becomes the main offense, while money laundering becomes the predicate offense. And this could be understood with an example that drug related offenses are considered as primary offense, while the money that is laundered through drug related offenses is considered a predicate offense. And therefore, according to the Financial Action Task Force, predicate offense conviction needs to be addressed in India. And with regards to this predicate offense conviction that needs to be addressed in India, the article has given the example of the ASL Maxis case, in which the money laundering angle, which was probed by the Enforcement Directorate, fell apart in the court. Now, hopefully, you have understood as to why this article is in the news. Now, let us understand about the Financial Action Task Force. Now, before understanding about Financial Action Task Force, let us first understand as to where it would be placed in your UPSC syllabus. Now, in your prelims syllabus, it would be placed in current events of international importance because of the recent grey listing of Pakistan, for which India has been pushing for. And with regards to your mains examination, it would be placed in GS paper 3 in the security section, in the subsection money laundering and its prevention, wherein previously questions have been asked in GS paper 3 of 2013 with regards to money laundering posing as a serious security threat to India's economic sovereignty. And similarly, a question was asked in the GS paper 3 of 2017 as to the major sources of terrorist funding. Now let us understand about the Financial Action Task Force, of which India is a member, and which specifically deals with money laundering. And it has been covered in the March edition of the Focus magazine. So let us understand with the help of that article itself. Now I've made this article for the March edition of the Focus magazine. Now the Financial Action Task Force is an intergovernmental body established in 1989 by the Group of Seven in Paris, France. Now it was formed with the intention to examine and develop measures to combat money laundering. Now the objectives of the Financial Action Task Force is to set standards and promote effective implementation of legal, regulatory, and operational measures for combating money laundering, terrorist financing, and threats to the integrity of the international financial system. Now, the Financial Action Task Force issues a report containing a set of 40 recommendations, which are intended to provide a comprehensive plan of action needed to fight money laundering. And in 2001, the development of standards in the fight against terrorist financing was added to the mission of the Financial Action Task Force, thereby further adding 9 special recommendations. So, therefore, FATF has formed 40 recommendations against money laundering and 9 special recommendations against terrorist financing. And this is known as the 40 plus 9 Financial Action Task Force standards. Now, hopefully, up till here, you understood as to what is the Financial Action Task Force, its objective, and what is meant by FATF 40 plus 9 or the 40 plus 9 FATF standards. Now, there was a term called mutual evaluations in the article, and it means that FATF conducts peer reviews of each member to assess levels of implementation of Financial Action Task Force recommendations. And this mutual evaluation provides an in depth description and analysis of each country's system for preventing criminal abuse of the financial systems. And it is called the mutual evaluations because it is conducted by the members on other members of the Financial Action Task Force. Now, the FATF listings was also recently in the news with regards to Pakistan's grey listing. Now, the Financial Action Task Force issues a list of non-cooperative countries or territories, which is commonly known as the FATF blacklist. And these countries or territories which are on the FATF blacklist are considered to be uncooperative in international efforts against money laundering and terrorism financing, while the grey list is a list of countries or territories which have deficiencies in the countering of money laundering in the financing of terrorism. And with regards to these deficiencies, these countries have developed an action plan with the Financial Action Task Force to remedy these deficiencies. Now, hopefully, up till here, you've also understood as to what is meant by mutual evaluations and the difference between FATF blacklist and the FATF grey list. Now, moreover, the Financial Action Task Force and the issue with Pakistan and its grey listing has also been covered in the March edition of the Focus magazine, and you can refer to it to further understand this. And so now with this, we move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from the editorial page on page 8. And what this article talks about is the various concerns with the terms of reference of the 15th Finance Commission. Now let us understand as to what concerns the author has raised in this article. Now the first concern raised by the author with regards to the terms of reference of the 15th Finance Commission is of the population data, wherein, according to the author, the general purpose of transfer to states by way of tax devolution are meant to enable the states so as to provide them comparable levels of public service and at comparable tax efforts. However, according to the author, the use of only 1971 or the 2011 census data has and would result in unwarranted losers and gainers, and therefore the use of either of the census data has no justification as a factor to achieve economic objectives for the current population. Now, the second concern raised by the author is with regards to fiscal federalism. The first is whether revenue deficit grants would be provided at all. The second is with regards to the impact of the increased tax devolution by the 14th Finance Commission and how it would be adjusted by the 15th Finance Commission. The third is the imperatives of the National Development Program, which includes the New India 2022, and how it would be synchronized with the 15th Finance Commission. The fourth concern with regards to fiscal federalism is the borrowing of states under Article 293. The fifth point is with regards to the performance-based incentives to states for the implementation of the flagship schemes. Now, under the terms of reference of the 15th Finance Commission, it has envisioned performance-based incentives that would be given to states on how they implement the flagship schemes of the Government of India, such as Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, among others. Now, the sixth point is with regards to control on populist measures by the government, wherein the control on populist measures by the central government may become a mean to guide state governments on how they spend upon welfare schemes, and what would be constituted as populist measures is also vague. Now, the seventh and the last point is the progress towards replacement rate of population among states. And therefore, according to the author, some of the items in the terms of reference have serious implications for fiscal federalism. Now, the third concern raised by the author is of the national plans, wherein Article 275 enables the Finance Commission to give grant to states to offset any post-evaluation gaps between the assessed revenue and the expenditures. But however, the 15th Finance Commission, according to the author, in its term of reference seeks to reduce the role of Article 275. Another concern raised by the author is that the use of the terms of reference of the 15th Finance Commission may allow the central government to intrude into state subjects through central schemes by the use of fiscal space, such as the control on populist measures, performance-based incentives, among other terms of reference. Now, the last concern that has been raised by the author is that the devolution of funds should not be done on a residual basis, wherein the central government first allocates to itself what is needed for its own expenditure, and then what is left over is given to the state. Now, hopefully, up till here, you've understood the concern that the author has raised with regards to the terms of reference of the 15th Finance Commission. And so, now with this, we move on to the next article. Now, we have taken this article from page 14. Now, what this article talks about is the impact of demonetization on tax collections. Now, according to this article, it tries to measure the impact of demonetization on tax compliance. And according to this article, demonetization has improved tax collections. Now, to support this argument, the author has given 3 points. The first is better collection, wherein India's net direct tax collection has improved by 17.1% in the fiscal year 2018. The second point given by the author is of higher buoyancy. Now, a good way to check revival of tax collection is to evaluate tax buoyancy. Now, tax buoyancy is an indicator to measure the efficiency and responsiveness of revenue mobilization in response to growth in GDP or national income. And a tax is said to be buoyant if the tax revenues increase more than proportionally in response to a rise in national income. And according to the author, tax buoyancy has picked up post demonetization, wherein it was 1.3 times in the fiscal year 2017 and 1.7 times in the fiscal year 2018. And the final point given by the author is of higher tax base, wherein, as per the latest budget, the tax base has increased. That although most of the new taxpayers have joined in the bottom of the tax pyramid, but it is believed that India's income level would improve over years, and the new return filers will also move higher into higher tax brackets. So hopefully up till here you've understood that this article tries to measure the impact of demonetization on tax compliance and has come to the conclusion that demonetization has improved tax collections, and for which it has given 3 reasons. Now, the first supporting reason given in this article is that the net direct tax collection has improved by 17.1% in the fiscal year of 2018, and therefore there has been better tax collection. The second reason given in this article is of higher buoyancy, wherein tax buoyancy is an indicator to measure the revenue mobilization in response to growth in GDP or national income, and therefore a tax is called buoyant if the tax revenue increases more than proportionally in response to a rise in national income. And the final reason given in this article is that the tax base has increased. So now hopefully you understand the 3 points with regard to the impact of demonetization on tax collection. And with regards to your UPSC syllabus, it is a part of GS paper 3 in the section Economic Development and the subsection Government Budgeting. And so now with this, we move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 2. Now the reason this article is in the news, because the Nagaland government in a report has said that Nagaland loses roughly 30 metric tons of soil area per hectare annually. And this land is lost to soil erosion and turbulent velocity runoff. And this soil erosion and turbulent velocity runoff causes landslides, flash floods, and sedimentation. And Nagaland is more vulnerable because of its hilly terrain and high rainfall during monsoon. And the Nagaland government has said that 70% of soil degradation is due to shifting cultivation, which is known as Jhum. Now, hopefully, up till here, you understood as to why this article is in the news. That the state of Nagaland loses about 30 metric tons of soil area per hectare annually, and this is lost to soil erosion and turbulent velocity runoff. And this causes landslides, flash floods, and sedimentation due to the destruction of prime agricultural and forest lands. And moreover, Nagaland is more vulnerable to such problems because of its hilly terrain and high rainfall during monsoon, wherein, according to the Nagaland government, there has been 70% soil degradation due to shifting cultivation known as Jhum. Now, let us further understand about the shifting cultivation known as Jhum with regards to your upcoming prelims examination. Now, it is a form of agriculture in which an area of ground is cleared of vegetation and cultivated for a few years. Afterwards, it is then abandoned for a new area until its fertility has been naturally restored. And it is during this phase cultivation is moved to a new area. Now, hopefully, up till here, you have understood that the Jhum cultivation is a form of agriculture in which area of a ground is cleared of vegetation and then cultivated for a few years. Later, when that area has shown signs of exhaustion, it is abandoned until its fertility is naturally restored, and therefore the cultivators move to a new area. Now, this new area of ground is often cleared by slash and burn method, wherein trees, bushes, etc. are cleared by slashing, while the remaining vegetation is cleared by being burnt. Now, the ashes of the remaining vegetation add potash to make the ground more fertile, and the seeds are sown after the rains. Now, hopefully, up till here, you've also understood that for Jhum cultivation, the area of ground which has to be cleared is often cleared by slash and burn methods, wherein the trees, bushes, etc. are slashed to the ground, while the remaining vegetation is burnt, and it is the ashes of the remaining vegetation that have been burned which add potash to the soil to make it more fertile. And after this, the seeds are sown after the rains. Now, the slash and burn method is known by different names in different parts of the country, wherein the Nagas call it Jhum. Bhuyas have two forms for it, Dhai and Koman. The Maria tribe of Bastar district call it Penda, while the Khon tribe call it Podu, and the Baiga tribe call it Bevar. Now, hopefully, you have also understood the different names that slash and burn method is called across India. Now, hopefully, you have understood as to what is Jhum cultivation. And so now with this, we come to an end in the analysis of today's paper. Now we move on to the question for today.